Hello, everyone. This is Written in the Stars, the channel that combines astrology and storytelling. Today, I'm gonna make a little digression from what I planned to do with this channel next. However, it fits nicely into the concept of this channel and is a topic very dear to me. So, I'm gonna start this video with a little bit of a story of how I got to the point of making this video. About 2 weeks or so ago, I stumbled upon the drama about the Age of Scorpius. If you don't know about this, the 22-year-old author Audra Winter released her novel, The Age of Scorpius, and it was receiving a lot of pushback because of its bad writing. Now, I haven't read the novel, I just looked at the first page. However, the general consensus is that it reads like a first draft. My first thought when I heard about the book, not the controversy around it, just the book, which is a fantasy story in a Zodiac-based world, the first thought I had was, damn, I wanted to do this one day. Writing in a fantasy-based world about the zodiac signs, or rather astrology as a whole, is something I played with in my mind for the last couple of months and is partly the reason why I started this channel. And naturally, I was curious about the Age of Scorpius. So, the next couple of days, I found myself tumbling down the rabbit hole that is the Age of Scorpius drama, and I found myself on TikTok, on Audra Winter's TikTok, just looking at how she used the zodiac signs in her fantasy-based world, and I just found it to be lacking. So I wanted to make a video about this. Well, actually, it's going to be three videos because this is just such a great opportunity to talk about astrology, what it is and what it can do, and also what I plan to do with this channel in the future. Because this channel is not just going to be about creating a fantasy zodiac world, but is combining astrology and writing in many different ways. In the first part, which is this video, I'm going to analyze the world building of the Age of Scorpius to see if it accurately reflects the zodiac signs or astrology as a whole. Then, in the second part, I want to look at Audra's natal chart to see how it reflects the current drama and what possibly went wrong when publishing The Age of Scorpius. And in the third part, I'm gonna look at her natal chart exclusively through the lens of finding a writing process that suits someone personally and that can also reveal a writer's blind spots, because you can definitely look at a natal chart of a writer and see how their writing shows up in their natal chart. So this is going to be the question of today's video. Does the Age of Scorpius world building represent the zodiac signs and astrology well? And for this analysis, I first up want us to look a little bit at some questions that Audra herself put up on her TikTok that she said were relevant in her world building process. First up, we have two world building questions, which are about how each sign contributes to the overall functioning and stability of her fantasy world, as well as how she can build sign alliances based off the function of the signs over their personality. And then the other question is how she can incorporate full astrological charts into personalities with a world based around the zodiac signs. Then next we have two questions concerning the magic system, which is about how she can combine genetically transferred magic and sun sign or sign related magic to create a comprehensive magical system, and how she can create a magic system that aligns with the elements as well as the trait of each zodiac sign. And throughout this whole analysis, we're gonna look at how the zodiac signs are represented. Audra herself put up some questions about this on her TikTok, which are the questions of how each sign is commonly portrayed in the media compared to actual factual traits of each sign, and what biases might develop against certain signs based on their stereotypes and false media representation. And in this video, we're basically looking at how much her own world building and her own magic system holds up in representing the zodiac signs. Her first question is, how does each sign contribute to the world's overall functioning and stability? And to me, this really is about how the zodiac signs are arranged. So this is what we're going to look at now. Audre divides her world into four groups, that being conviction based on the signs Scorpio, Aries, and Libra, autarkic based on Cancer, Pisces, and Sagittarius, then assiduous based on Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo, and societal based on Leo, Aquarius, and Gemini. Now, to me, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense already. The zodiac signs can be divided in four groups of three signs. However, they're just divided differently. This division is based on the four elements: fire, air, water, and earth. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. The water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And the way Audra divides it, only the assiduous group really reflects an astrological element, that of the earth element. Now, moving on to the world building a little bit deeper. So, first up, we have the first fire sign Aries, which in her world building holds the seat of power in the government and provides fire enchantments like welding, heat, and weaponry to the rest of Guardian. This actually makes a lot of sense. Aries is a very fiery sign that is associated with the planet Mars, planet of war. So, forging weaponry and being in charge of fiery heat makes a lot of sense. The next sign is Leo. Leo, according to Audra, act as craftsmen. They provide furniture, carpentry, and are farmers of livestock. And they also connect familiars with individuals across Guardian. This to me doesn't make too much sense. The craftsman I can maybe see in the creative potential that Leo has, but Leo most of the time is associated with king-like qualities, a leader, or even a showman that delights in showcasing his talents on a stage. Then Sagittarius in her world are a rogue. They do not like to listen to the government. They act as fishermen and craftsmen. Again, this doesn't make too much sense to me because while being roguelike in the sense that they often seek adventure, Sagittarius often has to do with teaching figures like gurus, religious leaders, or just teachers in higher education because of their impulse to widen their horizon and look at things through a broad lens. Next up, we have the air signs, which in general are about creating mental connections. First up, we have the Son of Gemini, which in Audra's world building is about creating enchantments for lamps, torches, and lanterns by them being light mages, which does not make sense whatsoever. Usually, Geminis are messengers. They are about distributing knowledge and stories, which is why they're also storytellers, and oftentimes they are also having a trickster-like nature. Next up is Libra, which in her world are mediators in the law and government, and they lead communication and the mail system, with the first part of them being mediators and part of the law and government. I do have not any qualms with. This fits Libra very much. However, I would put the communication and mail system part to Gemini and would add a more visual artist component to Libra. Then next up, we have Aquarius as the people running the center of advancement for magic, which in a way does make sense because Aquarius is about creating revolution, revolutionizing certain systems, and also about technology and creating technological advancements. However, she gives the reason for this as them wanting to improve the magic for practical and medical purposes. And this doesn't really fit Aquarius because they're really very much idealists that strive for a more utopic kind of vision. Next up, we have the water signs, which in astrology are all about creating emotional connections. First up, we have the sign of Cancer, which in Author's world building are in charge of water supply, aqueducts, plumbing, and running water, which in the broadest sense makes sense because Cancer is a water sign. However, it kind of disregards the nurturing, mother-like qualities of Cancer that are often attributed to the sign. Then next up we have Scorpio, which in Audra's world is in the second seat of power and mitigates territorial conflict as well as pioneers the timber industry. And this doesn't make sense whatsoever to me. So Scorpio is about kind of excavating hidden truths and about creating strong emotional connection through diving into the depths of another person because of this, and they are usually good psychologists, detectives, and occultists. So I don't know where any of this is coming from. Then, next up, Pisces. She cites them as healers, medical professionals, and exporters of clothing, fashion, and textiles. I can get behind the healer part, although the healing is often of a very spiritual nature. And I can get a little bit behind the fashion part because Pisces is quite artistic. However, I don't think this world building does Pisces much justice. It doesn't really represent Pisces' spiritual qualities very much. Next up, we have the earth signs, which are all about the connection to physical reality, to the material realm. We have Taurus, which in her world are farmers that are in charge of agriculture. And we have Virgo, which are in charge of the Lapis archives, in charge of libraries, and which are historians. And then we have the sign Capricorn, about whom there is not known much, but which serve kind of protective function in the realm of Guardian. And these three actually make quite a lot of sense. I originally planned to go over all the kind of collages she did for the different parts of her world if I'm doing that. So I'm just going to summarize what we already have talked about, which is that looking at her world building, I don't think all of the zodiac signs' general significations are represented that well. Her next question is actually a very interesting one, which is how she can incorporate the full astrological charts into personalities within a world based around the sun signs. And yeah, this is pretty interesting for someone who has studied astrology for a while now because it really gives so much nuance and shows can show how actual astrological charts contrast with the general way sun signs are perceived. For this to make sense, I'm just going to quickly summarize what astrology is about. First up, we have the planets, which are the what in astrology and represent certain archetypal themes such as desire or a fighting instinct. They are placed within the zodiac signs, which are the how of astrology. They generally show how a certain topic shows up in someone's life. Then, after this, there come the houses. The houses are based on the sign that rises on the eastern horizon. This becomes the first house, and then in counterclockwise order, the other signs are numbered, and each sign becomes also a house. The houses are the where in astrology. They are the life areas in which certain topic unfold in a certain way. And what Audra would kind of do with this is take a certain sun sign like Scorpio and just contrast it with a certain character's story, which can be quite interesting. However, it doesn't hold up if the zodiac signs aren't represented in an authentic way. Next up, we're going to look at the magic system in the Age of Aquarius. Next up, we're going to look at the magic system in the Age of Aquarius. And first up, Audra poses the question of how she could combine genetically transferred magic and sign related magic into a comprehensive magical system. First up, in her magic system, she has three arc powers based on the signs Cancer, Libra, and Scorpio. And already it doesn't make too much sense to me why exactly these three signs should get arc powers and not the other nine signs. But then she also says that the arc powers relate to the sun, the moon, and the stars, and not just the stars, but also the rising sign. The sun supposedly has blood-based magic, the moon arc power has water-based magic, and the stars or the ascendant arc power has emotion-based magic, and this doesn't make any sense. In astrology, the sun is not necessarily related to the blood. It would be more so like Mars, which is related to blood pressure. The sun would be related to blood only through being the sign that represents one's overall vitality, although it is more of a vitality in a spiritual sense of feeling invigorated by life itself, just like feeling a lot of lust for life. And then the moon kind of is related to water by ruling the sign of Cancer, but it doesn't make too much sense either. And then the stars or the ascendant also don't have anything to do with one's emotions. The planet that has the most to do with emotions is the moon and not the ascendant. Aside from the arc powers, her astrology system kind of combines astrology and genetics. She has created this whole system of who inherits whose power, but I just want to stop here and ask why you would want to do that. So, the basic premise of astrology is that the positions of the planets in the zodiac signs correlates with events on Earth in someone's life, and it doesn't make too much sense to me to link this to genetics. It's like on its own, it's such a cool magic system to have like your powers come from the planets. You just would have to decide which planet it comes from. So if it is kind of a, like sun sign based magic or a moon sign based magic. So in the picture of this chart, you can see how the planets fall in different signs, and you could easily just have a magic system that is based on one planet falling in one sign, um, which would be really cool. And it could also have just like different symbolic meaning. As a little example here, going back to her sun, moon, and rising sign based arc powers, you could have a magic system that is based entirely on the sun sign of each character. So, wherever the sun falls in the character's chart, this could be linked to magic and it could be a symbol for the unfolding identity of the character. It could highlight character growth. It could show the unfoldment of the person's identity, how they slowly grow into their identity, and the magic kind of growing with them. Then the moon, if it's linked to the moon, it could be a symbol for the person's past. It could be linked to their past, and so maybe the overall functioning of their magic is linked to certain traumas or certain other events from their past that they need to deal with. And then for the ascendant, which is the number one here, because the ascendant always falls into the first house, this could be personality based magic. The first house or the ascendant is one's personality or the overall way in which one manages life. And so if the magic is linked to the ascendant, it could be symbolic for the overall personality of the character. So I think the question here is not whether it is possible to create a genetically transferred magic system, because I think, yeah, it should be possible, but it also kind of disregards all the possibilities a magic system based on the zodiac signs or astrology as a whole could have. And again, to me, the way she just kind of creates the arc powers doesn't really reflect a good understanding of astrology. So, last question of today is, what types of magic align best with both the elements and the traits of each sign? First up, again, we have the fire signs. Aries is in her magic system associated with fire. They are fire mages with the ability to create and manipulate fire. And I got no problem with this. This is actually something I would do if I would create a zodiac-based magic system, which hopefully one day I'm going to do. Then next up we have Leo, which in her zodiac world are animal communicators and shapeshifters with the ability to communicate or change the body into an animal. And this does not make sense to me, except maybe if you kind of twist it into them being kind of showman people that can kind of act out different ways of being, that can like take on a role. But in general, I would just create a light-based magic system maybe for them, because they are associated, like Leo is associated with the sun. So having like a light-based magic system, them being able to create light, would be the most straightforward to me. And then Sagittarius are bards in her story with the ability to use music as a tool for manifestation and manipulation. And this also doesn't make too much sense. What I would have them maybe do is have them be able to read wisdom out of fire. Maybe they can have visions about the future for fire, or they can just gather a lot of knowledge through it somehow. Not really settled on this, but I don't think I would have them be able to manifest and manipulate something. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Next up, we have the air signs. Again, the air signs are all about communication and about mental activity. So I would have their magic be rooted in that, maybe. And in her magic system, Gemini are cosmetic shapeshifters with the ability to change the appearance of features of another's body, which makes enough sense to me because of Gemini's trickster-like nature. But I would also maybe have them just be able to create spells, like spell magic. And then Libras are, in her world, dream seekers with the ability to walk in the dreams of others. They also have the art power of healing, which both doesn't really make sense to me. The dream part I would associate with Pisces, and I would just maybe create a very artistic way of creating magic, maybe their magic being linked to like them wielding a brush and creating something out of just pigments, or maybe even because Libra is often associated with relationships, them being able to create magic with another person together by creating a union together where they can create different magic depending on which person they align with. And then Aquarius, she cites as light mages with the ability to manipulate, create, and use light, which also doesn't make sense to me. I would have Aquarius being able to either create technology or use their magic in a more advanced way. They might be able to wield lightning because Aquarius often is associated with that. I don't think I would have them be able to create light. It doesn't make sense to me because Aquarius is ruled by the sign of Saturn, which often resembles darkness. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me. Then next up, we have the water signs. Water signs are usually associated with emotions, so I would have their magic maybe be emotion based. In Audra's world, cancers are healers with the ability to spirit walk, which is another of the four arc powers. The healing part I can kind of get behind. If I would create a magic system based on the zodiac signs, I would have them be able to look into the past and stuff like that because the moon, which rules the sign of Cancer, is associated with the past, and I would maybe have them do emotional healing as well as physical healing because the moon is associated with the physical body. Then Scorpios in Otter's world are materialistic shapeshifters with the ability to change textures and appearances of objects. And they also have the zodiac turning ability, which is, as I understand it, the ability to change one's zodiac sign, which could be an interesting concept. However, I do think that the materialistic shape-shifting does not make sense for Scorpio. Again, Scorpio is a water-based sign, which often has like it, an association with deep healing and transformation. So I would maybe have them be able to kind of slip into someone's psyche and do something like that, or being able to hypnotize people, them having an interest into the occult, maybe dabbling with more, with a little bit of darker powers in the universe. And then Pisces are associated in her world with is associated with memory manipulation and the ability to retrieve and remove memory of others, and they are storm mages as well. So I would attribute most of this to Cancer. So the memory manipulation and the retrieval of one's memories or the removal of one's memories, I would just give Cancer. And for Pisces, I would do something different and give them the ability to see possible futures, but have it be really murky with it not being sure whether or not they're actually seeing a fixed future or just something that could potentially happen. And I would also have them be able to slip into dreams and other kind of ethereal and mystical realms. And lastly, we're having the earth signs, which are associated with the material realm. So I would have them have real, like, physical powers, the power to maybe manipulate physical objects, especially for Virgo. And but just gonna move through all of the signs now. Taurus in Audra's world are earth mages, and they have the ability to grow plants, which makes a lot of sense for Taurus, and I wouldn't necessarily change anything for that. Virgo are in charge of transportation magic, and while I think it does make somewhat sense due to its association with Mercury, I would give it to Gemini. Instead, I would give Virgo healing ability in a more practical application, like healing with herbs, or have them be little tinkerers that fix up objects. And lastly, Capricorn in Audra's world are draconian shifters. I could stretch my imagination here and say that dragons have really thick protective skin, and that's why she associates it with Capricorn. However, I think I would do something different and have them be able to create fortresses out of rock or have any other magical ability associated with rocks or with metal. So, all in all, do I think that the magic system of the Age of Scorpius does reflect the elements and the traits of each sign? I don't really think so. Some did match, but I think most of them didn't. I already gave some suggestions for what could be done differently, and I actually had a lot of fun doing it. So, if you liked it as well, watching this video, you could let me know in the comments, and I might do some more world building on this channel. And lastly, because I want to end this on a good note, I just want to look at the premise of her novel, which I think is actually quite intriguing and kind of reflective of the sign of Scorpio. And if it is executed well, I think this could be a great premise. And that is the premise of the 18-year-old Rika Spring, who has to live by the Scorpio code of not showing her emotions and not engaging with others, not making any friends, and her finding out that the code is kind of false and that they have been lied to and manipulated, which is like it sounds really interesting to me, to be honest. And I think, again, if she works on her writing and gets editors and heeds the editor's advice, then I do think it could become a great story about the zodiac sign of Scorpio. Now, if you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see the upcoming parts of this series or some other of my videos, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what you think about this world building and if you would like to see some future world building videos from me where I create a zodiac world. And if you want some astrology content that explains the basics of the astrological language, you could just watch this video.